On a cold evening in Kentucky, a poor woman sat on her porch, holding her face in her hands, wondering if happiness was something meant only for other people. She had nothing, no money, no comfort, no promises for tomorrow. But what she discovered in the days that followed would reveal a secret so powerful it could change the way you see life forever. This is not just another tale. It is a journey about a poor woman who discovered the real secret of happiness in a world that often confuses wealth with joy, where struggles, faith, kindness, and unexpected miracles meet. So sit back, take a deep breath, and let this story guide you to a new understanding of what it truly means to live a happy life. Mary Johnson was born in a small town in Kentucky, where the streets were quiet, the neighbors all knew each other, and life moved a little slower than in the big cities. From the outside, it seemed like a simple place to live. But for Mary, growing up wasn't easy. Her father passed away when she was only 6 years old, leaving her mother to raise 4 children on her own. Yet, despite their hardships, Mary's mother always reminded her children of one thing: happiness is not about what we own, it's about what we give. Those words stuck in Mary's heart, though she didn't fully understand them at the time. As she grew older, she often compared herself to other kids. At school, she saw classmates with new clothes, shiny bikes, and the latest toys. Meanwhile, Mary wore hand-me-down dresses and carried her books in a paper bag. It was embarrassing at times, and she often asked herself, why can't we have what they have? Why is life so unfair? She worked part-time jobs while finishing school, cleaning houses, washing dishes at diners, and babysitting children for families in town. She rarely had time to rest. Her dream was simple: to earn enough to help her family, especially her mother, who worked endlessly at a local laundry shop. Years passed and life didn't get much easier. Mary married young, hoping marriage would bring stability and comfort. Her husband, James, was a kind-hearted man but struggled to keep a steady job. They had 2 children, Emma and Daniel, and lived in a small, run-down house that barely kept out the cold winters. Bills piled up, food was often scarce, and Mary sometimes felt like she was trapped in an endless cycle of poverty. One evening, while sitting on her porch and watching the sun set over the Kentucky hills, Mary broke down in tears. She whispered, "God, why me? Why can't I have a good life like others? Why does happiness feel so far away?" That moment was a turning point. A neighbor named Mrs. Thompson, an elderly widow who lived 2 houses down, happened to pass by. She noticed Mary crying and decided to stop. Mrs. Thompson sat beside her and said gently, "My dear, I've lived for 70 years. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: happiness doesn't come from waiting for life to get easier." But over the next weeks, she began to notice something. Despite being old, frail, and alone, Mrs. Thompson always seemed cheerful. She baked cookies for the neighborhood kids, kept flowers blooming in her yard, and greeted everyone with warmth. Mary wondered, how can she be so happy when she has so little? Curiosity grew in her heart, and soon Mary decided to spend more time with Mrs. Thompson. She would visit her after work, sometimes helping with chores, sometimes just sitting with her over tea. She told Mary stories of her own struggles, losing her husband in a car accident, raising her children alone, facing illnesses, and even going days with nothing to eat. Yet, through it all, she never let bitterness consume her. Her secret: gratitude and giving. "You see, Mary," she said one afternoon while pouring tea, "we may not control what life gives us, but we can always control what we give back. When you wake up each morning and thank God for even the smallest blessing, a roof over your head, a child's laughter, the breath in your lungs, you will find happiness rising in your heart. And when you give to others, no matter how small, you'll find joy multiplying." Mary listened carefully. At first, she doubted it could be true. Gratitude, giving, could that really change her life? But slowly, she decided to test it. The very next day, even though money was tight, Mary baked 2 loaves of bread. One she kept for her family. The other she brought to a neighbor who had just lost his job. The man's eyes filled with tears as he accepted the gift, and in that moment, Mary felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Joy, real joy. It wasn't about the bread, it was about the kindness, the connection, the reminder that we're all in this life together. From then on, Mary began to practice gratitude and giving every single day. She wrote down 3 things she was thankful for each morning. Sometimes it was as simple as, "The sun is shining," or "My children are healthy," or "I have one more day to try again." At night, she found little ways to give. Sometimes she shared food, Sometimes she offered words of encouragement. Sometimes she simply smiled at strangers. And something remarkable happened. Though her circumstances didn't change overnight, Mary's heart changed. She no longer felt weighed down by poverty. She no longer saw herself as unlucky. Instead, she started to notice beauty in the simplest things: the sound of birds singing outside her window, the laughter of her children playing in the yard, the comfort of holding her husband's hand after a long day. Her family also noticed the change. Emma and Daniel began to follow their mother's example, showing kindness to their friends and appreciating the little things in life. James, her husband, though still struggling with work, found new strength in his wife's positivity. Their home, though still small and poor, was now filled with warmth, laughter, and peace. Years went by, and Mary's reputation in the town grew. People knew her as the woman who always had a smile, who always had time to listen, who always had something kind to give even when she didn't have much herself. She became a living example of happiness. One day, a young journalist from Louisville came to town to write a piece about small communities in Kentucky. When he interviewed the locals, many pointed him to Mary Johnson. Curious, he asked her, "Mary, what is your secret? You don't have much in terms of wealth, yet everyone says you are the happiest person they know. How is that possible?" Mary smiled and answered softly, "The secret of a happy life isn't having everything you want. It's being grateful for everything you already have. And it's giving what you can to others, no matter how small. Because when you live with gratitude and kindness, your heart is never empty." The journalist was so moved that he wrote a feature about Mary. The article spread beyond the town, touching hearts across the state. People were inspired by her story. Some even traveled to meet her, hoping to learn the same secret she lived by. Mary never sought fame. She never sought riches. But in her later years, she realized something profound. Though she had spent much of her life poor in material things, she had been rich in the things that truly mattered: love, kindness, faith, and gratitude. And when Mary passed away peacefully at the age of 78, the whole town gathered to honor her life. Hundreds came, not because she was wealthy or powerful, but because she had touched their lives with kindness. People shared stories of how Mary's smile, her words, her small acts of generosity had lifted them in their darkest times. And as they remembered her, they also remembered her message. Happiness is not found in wealth, but in gratitude and giving. Now, let me ask you, what about you? Are you chasing happiness in the wrong places? Are you waiting for life to get easier before you allow yourself to smile? Or are you ready to start living the secret that Mary discovered, that happiness begins with gratitude and grows with giving? Life will never be perfect. Struggles will always come. But the secret of a happy life is learning to see beauty in the midst of imperfection. Just like Mary, you can choose to live a life that shines with kindness, no matter your circumstances. So today, I challenge you. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Then, do one act of kindness for someone else. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's a smile, a call to a friend, a helping hand to a neighbor. Watch how it changes not only their day, but your own heart. Remember, the happiest people are not those who have the most, but those who give the most. The secret of a happy life is already within your reach. And maybe, just maybe, this story of a poor woman from Kentucky will remind you that even in the hardest times, happiness is possible if you choose to see it, live it, and share it.